Yo guys, welcome to the Zelda fiction. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with fem Akatsuki members? Huge shout out to Shots of the One for this story. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. I am lying down on the roof of my old apartment block looking up at the cloud-filled sky. I have only been back here for a week from the 3-year-long training with the pervy sage. It feels as if I have never left this rotten village, what with Sakura still punching me, the villagers still calling me a lowly demon, I don't even know why I bothered to come back. This village will never change, my thoughts are cut off once I notice that an Anbu officer has landed beside me. I raise an eyebrow at them, wondering why they could be here as I haven't done anything yet. The Hokage has sent me to tell you that you need to come to the council room. The Anbu with a bear mask says to me before he fades from my sight, I might as well see what she wants. Leave us all alone, you demon. I hear as I jump down off of the room before I slowly start to make my way over to the council L room, as I don't feel in the mood to deal with the old farts on the council. Once I make it to the council room, I open the door without knocking as they are waiting for me. I make my way inside only to see a sight that I thought would be impossible. What the funk? Why is that traitorous team here? I call out as Sasuke is standing in the middle of the room in a light brown kimono that is tied together with a purple rope and black pants. Sasuke was found at the entrance of Konoha, and he came willingly as a part of his old team. We thought it best for you see his sentence. Tsunade says to me with her arms crossed, and I can tell that she isn't happy to see him back here either. I let out a sigh as I take a seat near the door. Would you please care to explain to the council before you on why you had fled the village 3 years ago? Danzo asks him with a raised eyebrow. The snake just crosses his arms over his chest with a smirk. What is that funking team planning to say or do to get himself out of trouble? I left so that I could grow in power, then the village could grow in power as well. After I finished training with Orochimaru, I escaped and came back to the village to make it stronger. I feel sick at that lie of his, it is so funking fake that not even the civilians would believe that bullshit. We find that Sasuke Uchiha should be cleared of all charges against him and that he be promoted to Jounin. Danzo says and the civilian side agree with him. I see that she doesn't from the pure hatred in her eyes at Sasuke, but there is nothing that she can do as they outnumber her. Fine then, since there is over half of the council that agree, it is settled. The Uchiha is free of all charges and is now a Jounin of Konoha once more. Is that all? Tsunade says with a dark growl, lacing her voice with ki, to the delight of almost everyone in the room, most of all the Uchiha. That is bullshit. Do none of you remember how he had betrayed this village, or how about when he shoved a funking Chidori through my chest? I scream with pure hate. The room is silent for a moment or two before the council gets into an uproar about me being a filthy demon again. Silent. Now is this meeting over? Tsunade calls out with a glare before Danzo clears his throat to get the room's attention. I narrow my eyes at the old fart. What is he planning to do now? Actually, Lady Tsunade, we would like to talk to you about your replacement for the next Hokage. Well, we are all here. Danzo says with most of the civilian council nodding along with him. I have already picked the next Hokage. I don't. Tsunade starts to him with a glare and her fingers start to twitch, meaning she wants to hit a certain someone that is named Danzo right now. You see, we see that it would be a better idea that Sasuke be the next Hokage instead of the previous choice. Danzo says and I notice that Sasuke is smirking over at me with a cold look in his black eyes. I was truly pissed now. How dare they give that snake fasshole the next Hokage? I would rather go to hell before I ever give the next seat of Hokage to him. Tsunade yells out as she stands up with her hands on her desk with a lethal glare at the council, with a bit more ki. You have no choice in the matter as it was already disused in a secret meeting that he will be the next Hokage. Danzo tells her with a smirk, thinking that he has won. I look over at her to see that she is just barely holding herself back from ripping this funked up council into little tiny pieces. That is funking bullshit. This fasshole of a slimy traitor comes back here and all of a funking sudden you're kissing his face. This is all utter bullshit. I scream at council as I make my way to stand next to the only person in this room that is on my side. Tsunade, maybe she can be able to join. Naruto, you idiot, how dare you talk about Sasuke like that, and to his face. Sakura screeches at me as she pulls her arm back in a punch. When did she get here? As she throws her punch at me, I am able to catch it in my hand before Tsunade's hand was able to stop the punch herself. I am funking done with your shit, you pink-haired whore, and I am done with this whole village. I growl out as I throw Sakura down into the ground. Before I made my way out of the room, I pass her a small note that the rest of the room did not see. I really do hope that she is able to join us. Tsunade's POV. As I watched a boy, no young man that reminded me so much of my younger brother and my dead lover that I can't but feel like I had failed him, I realize that I have a note in my hand. Alright everyone, out. I yell as I am still the Hokage. They all listened and left me to my thoughts. Once they are all out of the room, including that brat the Uchiha, I open the note before me. Tsunade. I know that you are one of the few people that had truly cared for me. I had a feeling that this would happen when I got back, so I am leaving this place for good. Please don't stop me, as you know that this village will never change, but if it's not out of line, I would like you to find all of those who truly care about me. The only two out of the rookie 12 is Shika and Kiba, so get their help to find those that truly cared and meet me in a few days just outside of Konoha. I beg of you one last time, don't stop me when I try to leave, and even though I have called you Granny, I have never meant it, as I have developed feelings for you. I hope to see you in a few days, love, Naruto. I have tears running down my cheek as I read over the note Naruto gave me. I hadn't failed him, oh Naruto, I should never had left so that you didn't have to suffer while growing up. My lady Shikamaru and Kiba are here to see you. One of my Anbusei returning me back to reality once again. I nod my head to him ever so slightly to signal that they can be let in now. Tsunade, we just saw that Sasuke is back in the village and we had a bad feeling. Kiba says as Akamaru lets out a soft whimper at what Kiba said. Naruto, it seems they are your real friends. You would be right about having a bad feeling, Kiba, as Naruto has decided to leave the village for good this time. The council thought it would be a good idea to not only let Sasuke back, but to make him the next Hokage instead. I tell them they are shocked for a few seconds before their eyes gain a sharp and feral look in them. I almost feel sorry for the council members, almost. After everything that bastard did. After he had almost killed Naruto so that he could leave the village, they let him back in. Kiba and Akamaru both growl out, showing their teeth. Shikamaru looks as if he is thinking of 1,000 ways to get back at the council and this rotten village. There has to be more than him just leaving the village. This is Naruto we are all talking about here. Shikamaru says to me with that bored tone of his, you can't get anything past him it seems, and it's a good thing that he is on Naruto's side instead of being against him like the others. You are right about that, Shikamaru. Naruto has asked us to find all of those that are truly loyal to him and to meet up within a few days just outside of the village. I say to the two boys before me with my arms crossed, and I give them a slight smirk as they share a look with each other. That does sound extremely like something Naruto would do or say. Shikamaru says with a slight nod of his head as Kiba calms down a little with hearing what both Shikamaru and I had said. So is that our plan then, Lady Tsunade? We find out who is a true friend of Naruto and then we meet up with him in a few days. Kiba asks me with a raised eyebrow. I nod my head in agreement as I start going over in my head who we might find to be a true and loyal friend to Naruto. That is correct, this will be your mission, but no one is to find out, do you understand me? I say with a serious tone and they both give me a nod before I wave them off to start this mission. Naruto's POV. I am now back in my small rundown and destroyed apartment, thinking over what had happened back in the council room and how that joke of the council have pissed me off for the last time. I pack what is important to me into my storage scrolls before I place them into my backpack as I plan to leave this place once night falls over the village. I really do hope that Tsunade does listen. I decide to write a few letters to my friends explaining on why I am doing this, and I will write another letter to Tsunade explaining some things more in much more depth than in the last one as well. There hopefully I will see them in a few days. I mutter once I am done writing. I realize that it is nightfall, so I create 3 shadow clones and hand them each a letter to deliver them. I pick up my backpack, put it on and head towards the gate. I know that I'm being followed by Anbu and that they most likely belong to the council and Danzo. They will be coming after me soon. Naruto, wait. I hear someone call my name. I turn around to find that it was Tsunade with Kiba and Shika on either side of her and they all are close to tears at seeing me leave. I notice that the council and Sasuke along with the rest of Team 7 show up and I cross my arms at them. Naruto, what has gotten to you? You're not thinking clearly. Kakashi tries to reason with me with his hands up in a surrender fashion, but I scoff at him with a cold-hearted glare laced with Ki. Why don't you shut it? You're just as bad. You spent all your time teaching Sasuke, plus you taught him your own jutsu while you left me and Sakura to train ourselves. You are no more than trash, showing favoritism to that snake. I growl out much like a fox, showing my fangs at my so-called teacher. I see that Tsunade, Kiba and Shika have this look in their eyes as if they failed me. They could never fail me as I know that they have tried to do their best and help me when they can. You baka, how dare you say something like that to our sensei? Apologize right now, Sakura yells as she is about to walk up and punch me in the face before a large fireball is fired at her. It hits the ground before her, knocking her back with a few burns as someone lands next to me from out of the shadows. It is Itachi, uchiha Sasuke's older sister. She has long black hair that is tied into a ponytail, light brown eyes. She is wearing a cloak that is black with red clouds, and she has D-size friezes. She smirks over at her younger brother as he glares at her with his Sharingan active. Itachi. Sasuke growls out as he charges at her until he was kicked back. When he regains his balance, he sees that it was Kisame. She has short blue hair, blue eyes, blue skin with 3 gill marks on each cheek. She also wears the same cloak, and she has slightly bigger frieze than Itachi. You should have used a stronger attack. Kisame says, she has a sword on her back, the blade was wrapped up, and at the end of the handle is a small skull. She is carrying another cloak and 2 pouches in her hands. At seeing the 2 Akatsuki members, the Konoha get into their stances ready for an attack, but Kisame just walks over to me and hands me the cloak and pouches. So she sent the 2 of you out here to pick me up then? I asked a pair as I put the pouches on my legs and the cloak. I turn to look at them both, and Itachi nods her head in a small nod. Yeah, she thought we were enough to get you. Kisame says to me with a smile as she stretched, puffing out her chest. I can see that Tsunade is a bit confused, along with Kiba and Shikamaru. Naruto, what the hell is going on? Please, I just want to understand. Tsunade says to me with wide worried hazel eyes, and I really do hope that she find my second letter and really soon. What do you think? When that pervert was gone chasing skirts that I would just sit and wait around like a lost puppy to get trained by him? I ask with a cold tone, and I mentally flinch at her watery gaze at me before my attention to bought over to Kakashi as he takes a step forward. But thereafter the QB Naruto, they are just using you, please understand that. Kakashi tries to warn me, but it just makes me laugh darkly at their weak attempt to get me to stay here. The QB is gone. I start to explain as the whole group before me gasp minus Sasuke, who is seething at me, and Itachi. You see, when the 4th Hokage sealed the QB into me, the seal also slowly drains his power, but the QB found out about my detest for this village, and so he gave me all of his power, instead of letting the seal slowly drain the chakra. But when the QB gave me all his chakra, it changed me. I finished explaining with a feral grin as I let my hinge drop to reveal the real me to them. I don't want this to scare those loyal to me away. I am now a little bit taller, my hair is a little bit longer with red tints, and my blue eyes are now red with slits in them. I have 2 golden with red tips fox ears, and I also have 9 golden colored with red tips fox tails. Everyone can feel the change in my chakra, so they now know that I am a lot stronger. So big deal, the QB gave you its power, you will still be the dead last. I glare at Sasuke, who is smirking. I notice that Tsunade takes a slow step forward with her hands in the surrender pose. Naruto, if this is about the council earlier today, then I am sure that there she starts to say to me with wide eyes and a soft tone of voice, I am truly sorry Tsunade, but this is not my home. That is only one reason of many, but since I know that you won't give up even though I ask you, I'll make you a deal. A fight me versus Sasuke that no one interrupts, and if Sasuke wins I'll come back with no resists, but if I win I can leave. I say, and from the look on Sasuke's face, he decides to take me up on the challenge, as he makes his way over to me with Sakura fangirling behind him. This will be really easy. Sasuke says smugly as everyone takes a step back so that we can fight. I just stand here till Sasuke charges up his Chidori before he runs towards me. I just smirk as I vanish from sight, making Sasuke stop his Chidori and look around as he activated his Sharingan, just as 3 of my foxes shot out of a bush and ran straight at him. Sasuke pulls his sword out and slices the 3 foxes as they jumped at him. He looks at them before he notices that they are gray. They are made out of clay. Sasuke calls out as the 3 foxes explode, sending Sasuke back as he slams into a tree. I make my way out of the bush that my 3 clay foxes had come out of. How do you like the explosive clay? One of the many tricks I was taught on my training trip. I say to him with a smirk on my lips that pisses Sasuke off even more as he starts to do hand signs. Fire style. Fireball, just do. Sasuke calls out before he puts his hands to his lips and spits out a fireball, just as I start doing my own hand signs to counter the fireball heading towards me. Water style. Water shield. I call out just as a large blast of water comes out of nowhere and hits the fireball, covering the whole area and steam from the 2 justice colliding before us. Sasuke increases his speed and he runs at me before he swings his sword, thinking that he has finally won this little fight of ours before his sword is stopped by one of my tails, shocking him greatly. What the funk, he mutters in a shocked tone before he is blown backwards as a clay bird blows up in front of him, and before he can recover I attack him with a Rasengan into his stomach. Utterly pathetic, I had thought that he at least would put up a fight. I say as an Anbu caught him before I make my way back to the 2 women waiting for me just outside of Konoha's gate. Naruto, please wait, I hear Tsunade starts to call out to me, but it's too late as the moment that Kisame and Itachi place a hand on my shoulders, the 3 of us disappeared from sight of Konoha and her people. I slowly make my way back to my place once it was agreed that there will be a meeting tomorrow morning after we had a good night's sleep. As I enter my home I head towards my room so that I can go to sleep and forget that Naruto has left us all for good and that I am alone again. I open my door only to notice that a single letter is on my pillow sitting so innocently. I pick it up and from the writing on the letter lets me know the letter was left for me from Naruto, but why? Tsunade. I wish I was able to tell you all of this in person, but I don't think that will be possible with who I am. I'm sure that you will be there when I leave, so you have already seen what I really look like. I didn't want you to find out that way. I had wanted to tell you about it myself in a few days. I have also wrote a letter to both Shikamaru and Kiba explaining things to them as well. The Akatsuki aren't using me, I promise you that. They are the only ones that truly know of my pain to be outcasts, besides the other tailed beasts in Shiriki. I had come across one of the members of Akatsuki while Pervy Sage and I were in a small village, and he was chazzing women again. At first she didn't realize who I was, so we just started to talk, and then when she told me about her childhood and how it was similar to mine, I just knew that there was nothing for me here. Only a few people will be free of my wrath, and I hope you can find them and meet me in a few days, so that I can keep you all safe. I meant what I said in the last note I gave you about my feelings. The last thing I want to tell you in this is that I have never blamed you for not being here as a child, nor have you ever failed me. It has always been this rotten and corrupted village, I promise you. I hope to see you in a few days just outside of the village. Love, Naruto. I have tears running down my cheeks as I read over the letter that I found. It was the village's fault, not mine, that he left. Lady Tsunade, are you in there? I hear Kiba knock on my door. I make my way to the front door of my home and open the door to see that both Shikamaru and Kiba are standing before me. Come on in, I think we have a few things that we need to talk about. I say to them as I allow the two boys in before I close the door behind them, and we all take a seat in my main room. Did you get a letter from Naruto as well? Kiba asks me, and I nod as I show them my letter in turn. They show me their own letters that our favorite blonde have left us to explain things. So it was the village that had caused him to leave, and not the three of us. Also, anything that he said before he left was not meant to us. Shikamaru says with his arms folded before him. Kiba and I share a look, and I feel another weight lifted off of my chest. What Shikamaru had just said. Alright, so now that we know that he felt as he was more accepted with them than here, what is the plan? Kiba asks as Akamaru lies down by his feet with a soft whine. Leaving him, I look down at my letter once again, before I look at the two boys sitting with me with a determined look. We stick to the plan. We find those who truly cared for him and meet up with him in a few days, but I will need the two of you to keep an eye on the other Konoha 12 just in case. I tell them with my arms crossed over my chest, and they nod their heads as they agree with my words. That is understandable. What with Kiba and I being the only ones to get a letter besides you from him, then that means that the others are not to be trusted, at least not yet anyway. Shikamaru says with a sigh. Leaving him, I stand up from my seat with a sigh of my own leaving my lips. The two of you do what you must to make sure that the others and the Rotten Council don't suspect that you are in fact on Naruto's side. I suspect that I won't be in the seat of Hokage much longer, but that is fine as it Naruto was my reason to take the seat to begin with. I tell Kiba and Shika with a narrowed gaze laced with the smallest amount of ki, and they nod their heads. Understood, we will let you know if we find anything. They both say to me with a bow at the waist before they leave for the night, and I head off to bed to get some sleep for tomorrow. The next morning I am in the meeting room as the council is in a blaze with arguments on what to do next. Some want Naruto to be killed, some want him to be captured so that Sasuke can get his revenge on the blonde, and some, Danzo, just want to have him be turned into a weapon. Shut up. I have had it with all of you arguing. I yell at the council before me as I slam my fist down on my desk with a deadly glare at the fools all sitting before me in this council room. Well, what do you think we should do then, Lady Tsunade? One of the elders ask me, and I give them the motion that I am thinking over. My next course of action would be to buy some time. On to what we should do about Naruto becoming a rogue ninja. I recommend that we capture him and persuade for him to come back. I say as they all share a look before agreeing. I watch as they put him in the bingo book as an S-rank ninja to be captured and brought back alive. I hope that this will be able to delay what this village has for him, and that when we meet in a few days, that I might be able to tell him something that I should have told him before he left the village. Naruto's POV unknown location. Itachi, Kisame and I have just passed a lake to make our way into the village hidden in the clouds. Although there are storms pouring down on the lake in the village, it is a bright sunny day. As I follow the two girls, I notice that the villagers all stop to bow, while some waved. They even did it to me, and here I thought that my home village could change, as if that would ever happen. Why did I ever go back to the leaf? I mutter with a sigh as we continue to make our way through the village. It was in the hopes that I could have those that are truly loyal to me join us. We enter the hideout, and in here we have a door that lead to a living room that has a large couch, flat screen TV and two chairs on each side of the large couch. The kitchen is off to the left with a hallway to the right that has more doors that lead to other rooms, and finally a door right in front of us. Pain would like to meet you in her office. Itachi says to me softly. I give a nod before I kiss Itachi on the cheek, making a light pink blush appear as Kisame pouts and jealously with arms crossed. Thank you, girls. I thank them before I enter the room. It has a round table with chairs around it. At the end of the table is two women. One has short orange hair, gray eyes with 3 black rings in each eye, piercings in her face, and cup wrists. The other woman in the room has short blue hair, a paper flower in her hair, a piercing in her lower lip and cup wrists as well, and they are both wearing a black cloak with red clouds. They look up at the sound of the door opening with smiles on their faces. Once they see me, I make my way over and I take a seat in the free chair. Hello Naruto-kun, so how was your time back in Konoha? Pain asks me with a raised eyebrow and a curious tone before I let out a soft but disappointed sigh as I lean back in my chair. Terrible, nothing changed, plus that traitorous snake is back. They cleared him of all charges, I tell them before I trail off, not sure how to bring up my thoughts, and they seem to notice. What is it Naruto-kun? You know you can tell us anything, right? Conan asks me, and Pain nods her head as she agrees with what Conan just said. Now is the best time to tell them, I guess. I know that there is a small amount of people that are truly my friends in that village, so I plan to meet up with them just outside of the village in a few days, and one of those few people happened to be Lady Tsunade of the Sannin. I tell the both of them and I can see that they are now thinking over the new information that I just gave them on what is happening in the Hidden Leaf. Alright, then you meet up with them in a few days, and then we can start our plan, as I take it that you aren't gonna be leaving us again. Conan asks as she walks around my seat. She wraps her arms around my neck and placing her head on my shoulder as she takes a seat in my lap. Yep. I say as I drag one of my clawed fingers against the metal of the headband, making a slash across the symbol, gaining two soft smiles from both of the women in the room with me. Everyone sure be returning about now so we can let them know what is going on. I nod to her before we all get up and walk out into the living room, ready for the others to get here. Pain, Conan and I all step into the main room. We see that everyone is indeed back and that there is currently an argument going on between two members as the others just watch the two. This, you're just jealous that Naruto-kun likes my freest more than your speed bumps. A silver-haired woman says. Her name is Hyden. She has an hourglass figure, freests that could give May Taram plus SDT Cup freests a run for their money. She is wearing the same cloak as everybody in the room, but it is parted at the top, showing a lot of cleavage. She also has a 3-tri side. Big freest aren't everything, you cow. A woman with long blonde hair that is tied into a ponytail with her bangs covering one of her eyes says. Her name is Dodara. She has perky B borderline C cup freests. If you were to look at her hands, then you would see two mouths, one on each. Why, you little Hyden, starts to say with a growl in her voice as she glares at Dodara, and before she can continue that sentence, I decide to break this fight up before there is any bloodshed. Girls, there's no need to fight. I say to them with a calming tone of voice as I manage to get in between the two of them. They glare at each other, but other than that they stop the fight. I look around to see that Zedu is up against the wall, Kakazu and Sasori are on the couch watching TV with Itachi and kiss him before Pain clears her throat to get everyone's attention onto her. From this point on, Naruto-kun has abandoned his village. She says with her arms crossed over her chest as everyone's eyes light up at the news she gave, with a few cheers being made as well. But before we start the plan, I need to meet up with a few people that are my true friends from the village in a few days. I say, and I can see the worried looks on their faces, and I can't help the soft smile that makes his way on my face at the fact that they are all that worried about me. Are you sure about that, Naruto-kun? I doubt that Tsunade would let you leave that place again. Kakazu asks, and I give her a soft smile that gains me a light pink blush coloring her cheeks. I wouldn't worry about her as she is one of the ones that are on my side. Also, I doubt that she would be Hokage still by the time we meet up just outside the village. I explain, and I can see the confusion in the eyes of most of the girls, except for Itachi and Kisame as they picked me up. What do you mean that she would most likely no longer be the Hokage of the Leaf Village in a few days? Sasori asks me from her place on the couch with a light curious tone in her soft voice. The council thought it would be a good idea to have Sasuke be the next Hokage of the village, and with how she reacted rather badly, I believe that he will be in power in a few days. I explain with a dark growl in the back of my throat at the mere mention of that disloyal bastard's name. So we will have one of the 3 legendary Sannin back on our side. Kisame asks with a raised eyebrow. I give her a soft smile with a nod, and it seems that everyone is thinking this over. I want to see if we can get Suna to side with us, as Gaara is a close friend, so it shouldn't be too hard. I also know that Sasuke knows this, but he doesn't know about me heading to the Leaf. I say out best bet would be to have 3 of my shadow clones head towards Suna, 2 of them hinged, while I meet up with Tsunade. I explain what our next successful move would most likely be, so that there will be an even lower change at us getting caught by the idiotic people of the Leaf. That would be the best option that we have at the moment. Sasori and Dodara, the 2 of you will go with him just in case of trouble. Pain says. Sasori stands up as Dodara pokes her tongue out at Hyden. She responds with a middle finger and a glare at the blonde. I make my way to the door with a fond shake of the head before Dodara and Sasori both make their way after me. Shadow clone Justu. I say just before we leave the base, 2 out of my 3 clones hinge into Dodara and Sasori before they make their way towards Suna, as they already know the plan. I place a straw hat on that has 2 holes for my ears before I offer an arm to them before we make our way out of the village towards the village hidden in the leaves to increase our forces a bit. Sasuke's POV Konoha Hokage office 2 days later. I enter my new office with a smirk as last night Tsunade was kicked out of the seat and she left without much of a fight, though I don't care why, as I am about to sit down there is a knock. Come in. I call out through the door as a few old council members came in. I can see that they don't look happy about something, and I think to myself, what do these suck-ups want now? Hokage-sama, we were just wondering what you were going to do about the demon. One of the council members, Sakura's mother I think, asks me with her voice full of venom. I lean back in my chair as I think over what can be done about the idiot Naruto and how I can get his power. If I know the dope like I do, then he will head towards Suna before he does anything else, as he has a friend that lives there. Now leave me. I order the old fools before me in a cold tone, but all they do is smile at me before they bow at their waist in respect, and I smirk down at the fools. Yes, Hokage-sama. They say before they leave me alone on my office. I snap my fingers and one of my Anbu guards show up in a kneeling position, and this causes me to smirk even wider. Bring me both Team Kurenai and Team Guy to my office for a mission at once. The Anbu vanishes without a word to complete their order. After a few minutes later I have both teams before me. You wanted to see us, Lord Hokage? Both Team Guy and Team Kurenai ask me with a bow at the waist. Well, I read an interesting little file on one of my classmates before I look up at Hinata. It says here that you were on a mission by the third to be the reason that Naruto was to stay, so we could turn him into a weapon, and Sakura was to make him have a fear of women. I say to the young Hyuga standing before me, and she nods her head ever so slightly to my words. I was to confess my feelings to him when he became either way too powerful to control, or he became a rogue ninja. Hinata says without a stutter in her voice, the truth is that it was all an act to make Naruto think that she was this sweet, innocent and naive girl that she clearing is not. I'm sending the 6 of you out on a mission to bring the demon back here, as we believe that he is on his way to Suna to meet up with Gaara. I explain, gaining 6 nods in return. With the best trackers that we have in the Leaf, along with Guy's team as backup, he doesn't have a chance. Is there anything else that we need to do other than to retrieve Naruto? Niji asks me with a raised eyebrow, with the others all slightly nodding their heads in agreement to his question. You 6 are to make sure that they do not ally with Naruto, and if you run into him then you are to bring him back here for his judgment. Do I make myself clear? I say with a dark tone in my voice to get my point across, and that I will not accept any type of failure from any of them. And if he is with any allies of his? Kiba decides to ask me as Akamaru lets out a soft growl while Kiba strokes his fur. They must be impatient to go and teach that lowly demon a lesson or two. If it is Itachi, then bring her in as well. Anyone else, you can do as you wish, now go. The 6 bow to me once again before they vanish from my sight to get ready for their trip towards Suna. Naruto's POV. Sasori, Deidara and I are almost at the meeting spot that is located just outside of the small southeast gate of the Leaf, as very few people ever bother to use it outside of a handful of missions. I am glad to see that you came after all. I say with a smile in my voice as I see the small group before us. They all turn towards my voice, and with both Kiba and Akamaru, they know it is me. Naruto, I am so sorry for what happened with the council, I really am. Tsunade says as she pulls me into a hug that I return. I pull back from her with a small smile before I take a look over at my true friends. From left to right we have Anko, Kiba with Akamaru, Shizune with Taunton the pig, Shikamaru and lastly Tsunade herself. So these are my closest friends that are on my side. It's alright Tsunade, really, I am just glad that I know now who I can trust and that you all had trusted me enough to be here. I tell her with my smile still in place before I see that she lets her shoulders drop in relief that I'm not mad with her. I notice the worried look on Kiba's face. There is something you should know, Naruto. Kiba looks even more worried now than he did before, and I make my way over to him and place a hand on his shoulder in a comforting way. What is it? You can tell me anything, you know that, right? I ask him with a light and understanding tone of voice, and that seems to help him calm down a little bit as he takes a deep breath in. Team Guy and Kurenai have been ordered to go after you and Suna to bring you back here. Kiba explains and I nod as I take what he said, and I honestly suspected that Sasuke would do this. Thank you for telling me, Kiba, I knew he would do something like this. Since it takes 3 days to get to Suna, how long before you have to leave? I mutter with disdain before I turn to ask him the last part. I can see that the others are all watching us, interested in what I'll do next. An hour. He replies to my question as Akamaru gives a low whine. I crouch down, and with a smile, I run my fingers lightly through his fur before I give him a light scratch behind the ear. Alright, this is what we will do. Kiba, you go on as if nothing is out of the normal, while the rest of us head back to the hideout for about a little break and so that you get settled in. I then will head back out towards Suna as I need to talk with Gaara in person. Alright. I ask the small group before me only to find 2 not very happy Akatsuki members looking at me with hands on their hips. You are not going without one or both us with you just in case, Naruto-kun. They both say to me in perfect sync, and I think that is one of the only times that they will agree on anything. Alright, and I doubt that Pain would be very happy if I went on my own either, so I will see you in a few days, Kiba. I agree with them before I turn to face Kiba, and he gives me a nod before he heads back into the village, so that he is not suspected by the rest of the Hidden Leaf village. How are we going to get there and for you to get to Suna in time? Anko asks me with her arms crossed over her chest, as I give her a wicked grin that gains giggles from both Deidara and Sasori. Simple, my dear Anko, all you need to do is make sure that you are either holding on to me or holding on to someone who is. I explain to her as Sasori and Deidara take their place on either side of me, followed by Tsunade, Shizune with Taunton, Anko herself and finally Shikamaru. Once everyone was ready, I teleport us all to just outside the entry point of the hideout before we head in. Pain looks over at us with a raised eyebrow, but other than that she doesn't say anything. So these are the few people that didn't turn their backs on you? Zedu asks me with a light tone as everyone in the room turns towards us, and most just raise an eyebrow at who is now here. There is one more, but he will be join us in 3 days, so that he doesn't get found out well before he is able to get any more info for us to use against them. I say with a large fox-like grin on my lips that gained a few sharp and dangerous smirks in return from the girls before me. Well, you better go and show them their rooms and get them settled in, as I take it that you will be going to Suna in person afterwards. Conan asks with a hand on her hip and a raised eyebrow also. I can hear the slight pout in her words, and that makes me mentally grin at the sound. Yeah, and the reason why I sent the shadow clones at all, it was in case the leaf sent someone after me before now. I explained before I was asked about my clones gaining looks of understanding before I lead the 4 now ex-leaf ninja down one of the side hallways to their new rooms. We will see you in a few days, right, Naruto? Shizune asks me. I give her a small smile on my face with a nod of the head, and that seemed to calm her down a little bit. After a day of rest and making sure everyone is settled, I head to the entrance with Deidara and Sasori by my side again. Don't worry, we will be back here safe before you know it. I say before I teleport myself and my 2 traveling companions to where my clones are a few hours away from Suna. I dispel them to find that nothing has really happened, so we continue our way to Suna with a few laughs. Halt, explain your reason for coming here. 2 Suna ninja guard the gate ask us, so I decide to take my bamboo hat off so that I am now showing my face to them with a disarming smile. We are here to see Gaara as we have some things that we would like to talk with him about. I say, and I can see that the guards are just about to attack us, but a calm voice calls out. I had told you that if Naruto was to come here he was to be escorted to my office. The guards turn to find Gaara is making his way over to us, and he doesn't look happy with the guards. But Gaara-sama, they are one of the guards, try to explain why they were caught trying to attack one of their Kazekage's closest friends and also disobeying a direct order from him. I know full well who they are, and as long as Naruto is with them, then they are allowed into my village, understood? Gaara asks the 2 guards with a blank look and arms crossed. Hi. They both say as they nod their head before they go back to their posts. Gaara then looks over at me. I give him an innocent looking smile with a slight shrug of the shoulders as well. We can talk some more in my office. Gaara says. I nod in agreement before the 4 of us began to walk into Suna. The first thing I notice as we enter Gaara's office, besides there being 2 chairs on this side of his desk, is Temari and Kankurum standing just behind their brother's desk waiting for us 4. Temari, Kankurum. I greet them with a smile as I take a seat in one chair, and Deidara comes over and sits in my lap, leaving the other chair for Sasori to take. She did with a small cute pout. Naruto, I see that you have joined the Akatsuki, hopefully for good, yes? Gaara asks me with a raised eyebrow, and I give him a smile confirming this thoughts. When I first joined the Akatsuki I had sent a letter out to Gaara to explain why. I was a little worried that he would tell Tsunade almost instantly, but he sent a letter back saying he understood and was behind me no matter what. Yeah, I have. That damn village was a waste of time. We came here to gain your alliance with our village and to inform you of me switching sides. I tell him with a slight shrug. I notice that Temari seems to be a little worried, and I am pretty sure that she is a little worried about Shikamaru. What is it, Temari? What's wrong? Kankurum asks her with a concerned look. It seems that I'm not the only one to notice her worried look. Gaara looks over at his siblings with worry in his eyes. I think I might know what is worrying her, and don't worry, I had a few loyal friends of mine defect from that place, along with me, and Shik is one of them. I tell her, and the relief in her eyes makes me smile, a soft smile similar to that of an older brother. Shika, better look after her or else. Anyway, I will declare our new alliance and end our old one with a hidden leaf at the next meeting. So I would like it if you could stay till then to help show my council why on we should switch sides. Gaara says to me as he grabs a piece of paper off of his desk and writes on it. I had already known that there was a real possibility of us needing to meet with the council here. I had thought so. If that is what we need to do, then that is what we got to do. I say to my best friend as we the 4 of us stand up, since there is nothing else we that can really do right now. Come on, I'll show you to our place, as Gaara refuses to let his best friend spend a night in a hotel while staying, and of course Deidara and Sasori are welcomed. Temari tells me with a smile before she leads us out of her brother's office and down the main street towards her family's home. So how long do you think it will be before the council will have a meeting? I ask her as we make our way through the streets of the village, with many smiling and waving as we pass them by. I never know with them, but I wanted to say thank you Naruto for taking Shika with you. Temari says with a shrug and a light scoff before her tone of voice becomes a tiny bit softer than normal with a hint nerves. I let my face soften a little into an expression similar to that of a brother. I would never turn my back on a loyal and true friend of mine like Shikamaru, so don't worry, you'll be able to see him in a few days. I reassure her and she gives me a smile before we enter the Kazekage family home. This is a nice and very spacious place with a few different floors. 2 days later. So yesterday was the meeting and I am happy to know that I had able to convince the elders that they shouldn't stay allies with the Leaf since they have a traitor as their Hokage now. I am currently looking over the whole sand village from my room calmly before I feel 6 chakra signatures. Deidara, Sasori, it looks like we have some company heading this way. I say to the 2 girls that are relaxing on my large bed at the moment. They look up at me from what they are doing. Oh? Deidara asks with a raised eyebrow from her position of lying on her stomach, while Sasori is up at the head of the bed leaning against the wall watching with her own raised eyebrow. Yes, we better tell Gaara of this before we go meet them at the gate. I say to them as I make my way slowly to the door before I hear shuffling behind me as they follow after me. Once we are outside Gaara's office, I knock on the door lightly and after a few minutes of waiting we enter. Naruto, what is it that you need? Gaara asks with a confused tone of voice once he looks up from doing some important paperwork and sees that it is me. I make my way over to his desk. The ninja from Konoha are almost here to take me back to their village. I say to my best friend with arms crossed over my chest. He does not look that happy with what I had just told him. I can have them refused entry before I get there and talk with them, or have them brought straight to my office. Gaara says, but I shake my head at him with a small thankful smile on my lips. No, it's alright, I would like to fight them outside of the village so that no one was to get hurt and to make sure that my undercover friend doesn't get hurt. I explain to him and he thinks this over before nodding his head in understanding before the girls and I head to the main gate. After waiting for a little while within the shadow of the large rock wall, I can see the 6-leaf ninja. It's about time we got here as I hate the desert. I hear Kiba say as they are just about to enter till too soon a ninja blocked the path, confusing all but one ninja and Nindog of the group before us. Halt, intruder, what is your business with our village? One of the guards asks the group. Niji takes a step forward and I can already tell that he is the one in charge of the mission to get me. We were told that a dangerous traitor from our village was found heading to your village, so we came in place of our Hokage to collect him. Niji says with a cool and calm tone of voice, causing the guards to look at each other, rather confused with what he's saying. I share a look with Sasori and Deidara just before we make our way slowly over to the group of 8 all before us. I don't think Gaara would be happy that you ain't at your posts, we'll take care of this. I say to the guards. They nod in understanding and vanish back to their proper posts at the gate. We are here to take you back, Naruto, home with us. Niji tells me, still in that cool and collected tone of voice. I knew that they would try and convince me with the whole friend thing. Why would I ever want to go back to that hell called a village? I ask, playing along with their games. All the while I realize I'm ki at them all but Kiba to put them on the edge a little. Why? Because we're your friends, Naruto, that's why you should come home. Tenten continues with their little story of being my friends, causing me to laugh out in amusement at her words. That's funny because none you were there to help me through anything. I sneer at them all but Kiba as he was the only one besides Shika that had bothered to help me through it all. Come on Naruto, you were just mad, let's just go back and let everything go back to normal, Lee says, pissing me off as I am getting real tired of their games, and it seems that Sasori is as well. So what, you want him to go back to a village that doesn't give a damn about him? That also on a daily basis tries to kill him no matter what he does to protect their pathetic lives. Sasori spat at the group, letting her anger show through her words, and it's pissing the 5 Konohinin off. Naruto, why did you leave me behind? Hinata asks me with a stutter in her voice and tears in the corner of her eyes as she took a step towards me with a sad look on her face as well. Did you say something? I ask her with a light tone as if I didn't know about this new game of theirs to get me to come back to the village to be a weapon that they can use and abuse. Naruto, don't you get that I love you? Please come back with us, Naruto, I can't live without you, I am begging you to come back with us. Hinata says as the tears flow down her cheeks, causing me start laughing, while I notice out the corner of my eye Deidara and Sasori glare daggers at her. Did you really believe that I would ever believe that horseshit you would dare call acting? I ask the Konohinin before me with a dark smile on my lips as my tails move dangerously around. I'm not acting. I really do love you, Naruto-kun. Hinata says to me with even more tears flowing down her face as I reach into my cloak and pull out a copy of Hinata's file, and I opened it. Hinata Hyuga is to be trained in capturing and or keeping the demon within the village. Training is to also increase her chances of carrying its offspring. Training will include gaining sexual experience and chakra manipulation. Once carrying its offspring, she is to kill it. I finish reading the file I have with a growl, leaving me as my tails are swaying behind me very dangerously now. Lies. That folder is nothing but lies made by the Akatsuki to keep you away from me. Hinata begs me, and I can see that her little statement has pissed my two companies and Kiba off. You were trained to keep me in the village or try to get me back, just so you could have my child then kill me, so the village can train them into a weapon to use. I'm not as stupid as you think, you Hyuga is, so stop lying to me. I roar with my fangs bared only to gain 5 shocked expressions as I threw the file down, spreading the papers and picture into the desert sand for all to see. This wasn't happen, Tenten mutters in shock, so they all must have thought that I was an idiot demon. They must have thought that this would have been a simple mission to do. We can't take them all on at once, we need to split them up. Me and Shino will take on Deidara. Tenten and Lee, you will take on Sasori, leaving Kiba and Hinata to try and keep Naruto busy until we take those two out. Neji tells his team, gaining 6 nods. Lee jumps into the air, he slams his leg down between the girls and me, making us separate as sand from the kick blocks our view. Sasori's POV. I look around me as I wait for the sand to clear so that I can get back to Naruto-kun when I have to dodge a windmill shrunken and jump out of the dust cloud, followed by Tenten and Lee. You believe it would smart to break us up to take us on at the same time? That's so foolish. I say to them in a matter-of-fact tone which got a growl from Tenten as she reached for her scroll. Don't you dare underestimate us, as we will get you and that demon traitor, Lee now. Lee then ran at me, closing the gap between us before he started unleashing punches and kicks that I dodged or countered. I notice that Tenten isn't fighting me, so what does she have planned? I wonder. I can hear the unraveling of a summoning scroll, but most of my attention is on dodging Lee. As I continue to dodge him, I notice kunes and shurikens heading towards me, so I have to act fast. She was a most ugly, starts to say, and before he could finish I sent out a metal lash to stab him in the shoulder. Well, I am now currently hidden within the sand of the desert. Lee. Tenten yells out as the lash retreats back into the sand, and out comes a 4-legged puppet resembling a lizard with a huge mouth. The lizard opens its mouth wide, and as I come out of my large puppet, the lash retracts back into my sleeve as I watch Lee fall to the ground frozen. Ubis, what did you do to him? Tenten yells at me before she falls to the ground, as well after the lash retreats back into the sand by her leg. She should really pay more attention than this. A nerve toxin has been entered into your systems. Within a week you will both die, and what a painful week that will be for you. I say to them with an almost sadistic smile on my face before the lizard closes its mouth around me and buries itself again to find my other two companies. Deidara's POV. The moment the sand wall comes up, I waste no time at all in getting out of the large dust cloud by flying on one of my clay birds. Look around for where an attack from the Konoha ninja. Great, just my luck that we got separated. I better find. I begin to mutter, but I am unable to finish as a swarm of bugs shot straight at the bird, so I make my bird dodge the attack. I look around to see where it came from, but at that same moment another swarm hit the bird dead on, so now I have to land back down on the ground, with a high chance of the leaf ninja having a plan. Don't think that you can win when fate has already decided that the winners of this fight will be us. Neji says to me with that annoyingly stuck-up tone of his. I see that he activated his Byakugan, but I just let out a cruel laugh as I find this whole thing highly amusing to watch and listen to. If you two are here, your teammates are already as good as dead. I say while I laugh even harder, and I can tell that it's pissing them off good. They are less likely to think their attacks through. Why you little, the Hyuga starts to say to me before we hear an explosion, and I can feel a large and cruel grin making its way onto my face again, as that sound can only mean one thing. That must be Naruto-kun killing off the two fools that you had decided sent to fight against him. Such a pity. I say with a mocking tone near the end just to piss them off even more. Before they can respond, a puppet lizard shoots out of the sand and opens its mouth to reveal Sasori to us. Deidara, come on, let's get going, as Naruto-kun must be getting bored with those two fools that are fighting against him right now. Sasori says with a rather cold tone of voice as I shake my head with a small chuckle, leaving me at the mental images of what he could be doing to them. You have a point. I say as I make my way over to her and her large puppet before Sasori turns to face the Hyuga with a cold, dead gaze in her eyes and her arms crossed over her chest. Your teammates are going to die if you don't leave now, so be lucky that Naruto-kun doesn't want to kill any of you yet. She says with a cold and dead tone. Before Neji or Shino can say and do anything, I detonate the bird that I was on, blinding Neji and Shino and letting us escape. Naruto's POV. I'm standing before Kiba and Hinata with a bored expression and arms crossed over my chest. My ear twitches before Hinata runs at me with her fists glowing with a gentle fist technique. Is that the best that you can do? I cruelly taunt her as I continue to dodge all of her attacks. I bring up a wall of sand, allowing me to hinge into Hinata as cover for Kiba to attack her now. Hardly you demon. Hinata yells out at me before she decides to kick down the wall and clear out the dust cloud to reveal me standing not that far from her in the same fighting stance. Right now there are now two Hinatas, so which one is the real one, boy? Kiba says as he looks between us slowly, and when our eyes meet he lets the corner of his lips curl upwards. He shares a look with Akamaru before they both run at and attack the real Hinata Hyuga rather harshly. Kiba, you idiot, I'm the real Hinata. She says, but he doesn't listen to her as he continues to attack along with Akamaru. I slowly make my way over to them with a cold and cruel grin on my lips. As much as I would love to continue this little fight of ours, I don't want to kill you, at least not yet. I say before I have two clay foxes come out of the sand and exploded, knocking the Hyuga out. I undo my hinge just as one of Sasori's puppets comes digging out the sand next to me. Looks like you had a lot of fun dealing with the Hyuga abyss. Tadara says with a dark smile on her lips before Kiba, Akamaru and I get in the puppet with them and head back to our base. So you learn anything else within the last few days since we last spoke? I ask Kiba as three of us take a seat to give Sasori a little more room so that she can use her chakra strings properly. Well, nothing much besides seeing one of Suna's messenger birds fly towards Konoha. If I have to guess, I would say that Sasuke will not be happy with whatever the messenger hawk has. Kiba says to us with a shrug of the shoulders as he pets Akamaru rather absent-mindedly. The girls and I all share a laugh at the reaction that Sasuke might have once he sees the message. Once we reach the gate of the hidden cloud village, we get out of the puppet and continue in on foot. I notice that Kiba is looking around in wonder and confusion before we enter the base. You're back. One of the girls call out in joy as we enter the main room to find that they are all waiting for us, and I see that Shikamaru is off to the side looking a little bit out of place here. Sorry it took so long, but I can safely say that Suna are now allied with us instead. I say to the group with a smile, and everyone in the room cheers that we made the Leaf lose a great ally. So what's the next part of the plan? Kisame asks me with a curious tone in her voice as I take a seat on the large couch next to her. I see the confused looks my friends form the Leaf have. What plan is she talking about, Naruto? What is going through that head of yours now? Anko asks me just as Kiba, Shikamaru, Tsunade and Shizune all agree with what she had asked me. Do you really think that it's a good idea to just go and tell them the plan when they aren't even a part of the Akatsuki? Hayden asks me with a narrowed down look at the now ex-Konoha ninja, with a few of the other girls all nodding their heads. I can see where they are coming from. Then what do we do to prove that we are here to stay and won't ditch out on him? Shizune asks with a firm look on her face that the small group with her all share it on their own faces also. Besides putting a slash through your headbands. Kakazu asks with a sarcastic tone just as Kiba, Shika and Anko grab out their kunais and put a slash through the symbols on their hit I-8. That might be a really good start, but are you all willing to take his mark though? Zestu asks with a challenging tone in her voice. I watch as my friends all look at each other a bit confused. What do you mean by take his mark? Anko asks Zestu with a guarded look in her eyes before I take a step forward between the two groups with a soft but disarming smile on my thin lips. It's just a small tattoo-like mark of a nine-tailed fox protecting something that symbolize you, that is all. You don't have to take it if you don't want to. I'm not going to force you. I explain to them with a light tone of voice, and I see that they are all thinking over the possibility of taking it on. Is there anything else about the mark that we need to know now? Shika asks me with his normal bored tone of voice from where he is leaning up against the wall with his hands in pockets. Yeah, you see, the tattoos will act same way as the kunai that my father used for his Harem when you are in trouble. I tell them as I notice that their eyes all widen slightly at what I had just told them about the tattoo that they might be getting from me by within the next few days. Will we be able to think about it and tell you our answers in the next few days, Naruto? Shizune asks me, and I give a small nod with a light smile on my face to the group of 5 ex-Leaf ninjas. Yes, like I said, I don't want to make you take this mark against your will. Why don't we all go to bed, as it has been a long past few days? I tell them before I turn my question to everyone that is around me in the main lounge. I see that everyone here thinks it over before they all agree. Alright, as that is only far night, Naruto-kun. Konan says with a soft tone. The rest of the official Akatsuki members say good night to me along with her before they head off to their rooms. Night, Naruto. My friends from the Leaf say to me before they also head off to get some much needed sleep. I'll need to see if I can get the boys their own homes, not that far from base. Night all. I say with a light smile on my lips, but once I'm alone I let a fox-like grin slip onto my features as I think over what will happen once they all get my mark tattooed onto them. The world better be ready for when I unleash my full plan, as no one will be able to hide once I am done. Sasuke's POV Konoha Hokage office 4 days later. I am going over some plans I have about dealing with the dead last demon called Naruto and how I will make his power my own when there is a sudden and urgent knock on my office door. Come in. I call out wondering who it could possibly be that would even dare to bother me right now. The door opens and I find that the two teams I had sent after Naruto have come back. Lord Hokage, Lee and Tenten are in the hospital because of poisoning, Kiba is missing, and we have reason to think that Naruto had taken him. Niji says and I can feel a scowl forming on my lips at his words. It seemed that the idiot is smarter than he let others see if he took Kiba along. Lord Hokage, you need to see this. One of my Anbu says in a panicked voice as they come into the office and hands me a scroll. I read through it only to find that it's from the sand. Oh shit. It looks like the demon was able to convince Suna to side with him, as this is a letter saying that the sand and leaf are no longer allies. I growl darkly, I will get you Naruto, and your power will be mine. The re-aiming members of Team Guy and Team Kurenai all stiffen a bit in shock before me. What? They say before my glare silences them all and they bow their heads in submission. Good, now way to get Naruto and Kiba back as he is one of the best trackers we have. I have got it. Find me Tsunade, Shikamaru and possibly Anko and bring the three of them here now. I yell at some of my Anbu and they leave to follow their orders. After a few moments my Anbu return. We couldn't find them anywhere in the village Hokage-sama, in fact no one has seen them for about a week. My Anbu say to me from their kneeling positions before me as the room becomes deathly quiet and I stare down at the Anbu before me thinking over this info they told me. What about Shizune? She goes everywhere that Tsunade goes. I say and they shake their heads, meaning that no one has seen her within a week. As well did they leave with the dead last. Lord Hokage. What is it? Hinata asks with a slightly worried look on her face. I lean back in my seat and let out a deep breath while I come up with a plan to get everything that I deserve. I am putting Shikamaru, Anko, Tsunade and Shizune all into the bingo books as traitors and that they are to be brought back alive to face punishment for helping Naruto. Am I understood? I say as I get out the bingo book and started putting the in group of 5 into the pages of the book. Yes, Hokage. I hear from the group of ninja either standing or kneeling before me. Before I wave them off and they leave me along in my office, I get up from my seat to look out my window. It's your move Naruto, you better choose wisely, but it doesn't matter as I will win this little game of ours with the prize being your power and everything you hold dear belong to me. I mutter rather darkly to myself as I let a dangerous grin slip onto my lips at the mere thought of it all. I can imagine rather vividly what his face will look like at the sight of me gaining all of his power before I give Itachi her punishment for everything that she has done in this life to me and my clan. Tsunade's POV. We are all sitting in the main lounge of the base just relaxing after Anko, Shizune, and I all got our tattoos and the boys got a similar one, but it is slightly different than ours, but not by much. How does it feel to be 17 once again? Itachi asks us with a smirk on her lips. A side effect of getting the tattoo was that the three of us all de-aged back to our late teens. That was only if we had wanted ourselves to be re-energized. We become younger than we were before. It's gonna be harder to find us, that is for sure. Anko says smiling, the reason is because Naruto's chakra had merged with the 9 tails, so when we got the tattoo from him, we got younger. How do you even know if they're going to be looking for us? Shizune asks confused as she holds Taunton in her arms. Shikamaru rolls his eyes at her from his place against the wall once again. We've been gone for about a week, maybe longer, and they will connect the dots that we left with Naruto or a few days after he officially left the village. He says and I have to agree with his logic on that, but just as Anko said, it will be a little harder for the Leaf to find any of us now as well. He's right as I am pretty sure that they all think Kiba was taken, so that they can't track any of us down. He might be in the clear of the village for now, but I don't know how long that will last. I say with a sigh, leaving my pale lips before I decide to get up from my seat with a full body stretch and start to make my way towards the long hallway that leads down to all of our bedrooms. Where are you going? Hayden asks me with a curious tone in her voice as she looks up at me from cleaning her side. I pause in my steps as I turn to give her my full attention with a smile. To see what Naruto-kun is doing. I say to her before I make my way down the long hallway, and once I reach Naruto's bedroom, I give a few light knocks on the slightly ajar door before me. Come in. I can hear Naruto say to me from within the room. I slowly enter to find him at his desk reading over a few different scrolls and the many maps of the whole shinobi world. You sure you can't do any of that later? I ask with a soft tone in my voice as I make my way over. He looks up from his work with a worn smile on his lips as he pushes away from the desk. How are you enjoying not only being young again, but the small fact that you are now part of the Akatsuki? He asks me with a light curious tone in his voice as I take a seat on his lap and his arms wrap around my waist lightly to hold me in place on his lap while I lean back against him. Well, I get to enjoy my youth once again without making the same mistakes from the first time around, and for the fact that I'm now a part of the Akatsuki, as long I'm with you it's fine. I tell him before I mutter the last part under my breath in the hope that he didn't hear the last bit. Well, I think you look good in the black and red, don't you agree? He asks with a fox-like grin as he moves one of his hands to lightly ghost over my feast, earning a light gasp from my lips. "Na Naruto-kun wa," I stutter out softly as I let my eyes flutter close all the while I let myself relax some more against him. He continues to ghost his hands over my sensitive mounds. "Shush, just relax. You don't need to say anything, just let me take care of my princess." Naruto whispers huskily in my ear, sending shivers down my spine at him calling me his princess. "Oh ah," I moan out softly as he showers my neck and shoulder with light loving kisses, while at the same time as he lightly cups and starts to softly knead both of my French francs cup-sized feasts. Kakashi's POV. I slowly make my way to the lunch that I am meant to have with the other sensei, and I see that it has been about a week since Naruto had left and things haven't been quite the same here. "Have you heard that the demon has turned Lady Tsunade against the village?" I hear a couple of villagers say as I pass them. I act as if I am just reading my book as I listen into them talking. I had heard that the two groups of ninja that had went after him to bring him back to face his justice, two of them were poisoned and the others are all badly injured. I continue on my way to lunch and I can hardly believe what is being said about Naruto among all of the villagers. Let's hope that the Hokage finds the demon and kills it for the crimes. I knew that Naruto had it rough with how the villagers had treated him because of his tenant, but not this rough. Maybe I should have been a better teacher to him instead of just sitting by and doing nothing. "Kakashi. You finally made it, we were beginning to think that you weren't gonna show up," Guy says with a bright smile on his face as I take a seat at the table so that I can order my food. "Have any of you heard what the villagers are saying about the events that happened within the last week?" Asuma asks us as he takes out a new cigarette so that he can have a smoke. He really needs to quiet with that. I think over what he said along with what I heard on the way here. How can we not, Asuma? No one is hiding the fact that they have always hated him for something that was out of his control. Kurenai whispers rather lowly while leaning in along with the rest of us at the table so that the other customers don't happen to hear who we are talking about. Some of the things that's being said by the villagers and even some of the other ninja makes next to no sense to the few that truly knew the small group. I say with a sigh, gaining nods from the other three senseis at the table with me just as my food comes out and is placed before me. Shikamaru is a smart kid and he is a loyal friend. If he left it was because he wanted to and not because he was forced to leave. Asuma says with a sigh before he takes a drag from his cigarette. We all agree as it doesn't seem like Shikamaru would allow himself to be forced by anyone. How did Choji react once he found out that Shika had left without him? Kurenai asks with a soft expression in her tone and on her face, while Asuma closes his eyes with a sigh escaping him. Choji was understandably shocked once he found out, but he understood why Shika had left. "I'm sure that there are those here that support Naruto, but we're just scared." Asuma trails off as a few council members pass us by talking amongst themselves, but I am sure they are listening. "Like us?" I ask once they are out of hearing range. The other three senseis all look down in shame, and I do the same as I should have done better, been a better teacher for all of Team 7. "Yeah, we knew the truth and yet we stood by. The fourth would be disappointed in all of us," Guy says in a low sigh and not in his normal flamboyant tone of voice that we all know oh so well. "Then we help them from inside this corrupted village, do what we can to find the rest of those that was scared to leave and prove that we are here for him," Kurenai says to us with a fire in her red eyes, and we all agree with her plan as it's the best one we have at this moment in time. "For Naruto," we all say before we continue to eat our lunch while we think of ways that we can help Naruto without the village finding us out. I just really hope that it's not too late for us to show him that we do care and that we are there if he needs us by his side once again. Naruto's POV. All 15 of us are right now sitting around the large table that we have in the planning room of the hideout, with a map on the table spread out to show the whole ninja nation before us. Now that we are all on the same page here, what is the next step? Anko asks the room with a raised eyebrow and arms crossed. My gaze travels over the room from my place at the head. We find, talk with and possibly recruit the other Jinchuriki so that they know that there is a place that they will be accepted, and once that is done we go after the rest of the world. I say to the rest of the Akatsuki as I lean forward slightly to get a better look of the worldwide map. Alright, but what happens if they for some reason refuse to listen to us at all? Hayden and Kisum both ask me from their seats in confused tones as I think it over cause it is a valid question. Then we do what we must so that all of our planning and time hasn't been for nothing. I give my reply to the question. I watch as they all think it over before they agree with my words. What village do we plan to go and visit first, Naruto-kun? Konan asks me in a slightly confused tone from her place at the table before I point to the sand village on the map before us all. I will need to speak with Gaara about it as he is the closest one at the moment, but that won't be for a while to lessen the chance of our enemies finding us. I suggest that in the meantime we try to find the other Jinchuriki and any info that we can get on their lives. I explain the first step of the plan to everyone, they all think it over for a moment before they agree with my words. It's been close to a month now since the 5 of us all left the village and joined the Akatsuki along with Naruto. In that time we have been tested to make sure that we are 100% on Naruto's side by the other girls, and it hasn't been a walk in the park either for any of us here. I'm glad that's over with. I mutter with a tired sigh, leaving me as I take a seat on the sofa in the lounge right in front of the TV, just happy that we have finally passed all their tests for us. That what is over, Anko? Pain asks me from the kitchen. I look over at her to see that she has a raised eyebrow and a knowing smirk on her face as it's her turn to prepare dinner for us all. The tests that you all had for us this past month to make sure that we are truly on Naruto-kun's side and not the leaf. I tell her with an instinctual wave of the hand, and before I can turn the TV on I gain a light laugh from the redhead. I raise my own eyebrow over at her in confusion. We had to make sure, and the fact that you completed them all without much of a fight means a lot. Pain says with a smile as a few last laughs leave her before she continues to prepare the food with that small smile still in place. I decide to get up and make my way over to help her out. I thought you would like some help as most of them will be coming back from missions. I explain with a smile as she looks at me with a confused expression before it becomes one of thanks. You don't have to do that, but thank you Anko. Pain says with a grin just as I pick up a knife and start to cut up the different vegetables and meats for what looks like a large stew tonight. That smells good. We abruptly can hear Hayden say as the other girls all head into the main room of the hideout after their current missions, and from the looks of it, their missions were fruitful. Dinner should not be too long now, around 5 to 10 minutes away, so why don't you all go get a shower while you wait? Pain says with a smile while the others go to do just as she asks. I look around and I notice that Naruto isn't with them, in fact I think I haven't seen him all day. Have you seen Naruto-kun at all? I ask as I start to get bowls and other cutlery that we will need for dinner while she adds the last few touches to the meal. She shakes her head showing me that she hasn't seen him today either. I wonder what he could be doing at the moment then. That smells truly divine, my beloved Hiwa and Hebe. Naruto says to us with a kind warm smile on his lips after he appears in the middle of the room before us in swirl of fire and shadows. Thank you Naruto-kun. Pain and I both thank him with a light blush at his words before we go and place the meal down on the table as the others come back and looking rather refreshed. So what have you been up to today Naruto-kun? Zestu asks as we all take a seat to eat with Naruto being at the head like he always is at meal times. We all nod in agreement with her. I was talking with Gaara about some things and checking in on how Shikamaru is settling into his new place with Temari. He says before taking a bite out of his food, and he lets out a light hum with his eyes closed before he continues to eat the meal before him. After dinner we make our way back to the main lounge room and relax after a rather long day for most of us here. So how was everyone's missions? Tsunade asks the room with a raised eyebrow as until this afternoon those of us from the Leaf weren't allowed to join the others on missions. A chorus of them all being successful in what they were meant to do can be heard around the room. Excellent, later on I would like to have the mission reports from each team in my room, if that isn't too much trouble. Naruto smiles at us all as he relaxes even more into his seat with a sigh. Kurenai's POV. It's been about a month since Naruto and 3 of his friends have become Rouge Ninja. People aren't too sure about Kiba as he is one of the best trackers this village has. I currently am in my apartment along with the other 3 senseis as it's the only place we can talk rather freely. How are Tenten and Lee doing, guy? Asuma asks our green spandex wearing friend as he goes for a new smoke but stops because of me glaring at him. I do not want my place smelling. They are fine as Sakura was able to find an antidote for them thanks to her short time under Tsunade's teaching, but he says from his seat, and we all have to agree with him on that, even if none of us like how our students have turned out, that doesn't mean they deserve to die. But what? Guy, what else do you need to tell us? Kakashi asks him with a rather worried tone in his voice to match the equally worried look in his visible eye. Guy lets out a sigh as he looks out the window overlooking the village for a couple of seconds as he gathers his thoughts. It was very close to them dying and that they are still recovering in hospital. Guy says, and before anyone can speak in a puff of smoke, Akamaru appears in the center of the room with a scroll. Akamaru, what are you doing here, boy? I ask, feeling confused as he looks around at us all with a calculating gaze. With a nod of the head he placed the scroll in my lap and lies down by my feet. Maybe it could have something to do with the others. Sensei, if you are reading this then Wolf deemed it safe and I know that you care for our dear fox in your own way. We have realized that there are those who are scared to have openly do what was done, so we ask you to gather those souls and be our inside eyes and ears. Wolf will stay with you for your answer, also keep an eye out as a devious little fox will drop by, signed Inu. I look up at the other 3 senseis once I'm finished reading with wide red eyes in pure shock. Even though it's meant to be safe for you to read they still coded it to be sure. Kakashi says with a proud tone in his voice at how our students' ex-students are thinking and being cautious. Only those who truly know who they are will understand the whole thing. Asuma says with a light chuckle, leaving him, and I have to agree with his logic on that thought. I look down at the seemingly sleeping dog at my feet with a thoughtful expression before I grab some paper. I notice that Akamaru opens one eye to watch me as I write down my answer before I roll it up. Here, take this back to those that are waiting and tell them that we look all forward to seeing the devious little fox once again. I say, smiling as Akamaru gently takes the scroll from my hand into his mouth, and with a nod to us he is gone in a puff of smoke, leaving us to our thoughts. Has he always been able to pop in and out much like a summon? Kakashi asks with a confused tone and head tilted slightly to the side, much like the dogs that he is contracted with. No, as far as I knew Akamaru was just a regular nin dog that was raised by Kiba. I say to him, just as confused on how the large white canine is able to do that, as it shouldn't be possible. We can just ask a certain fox once we seen them about it. Asuma says with a sigh from his place against the wall, and we nod in agreement as now it's just a matter of waiting. A couple of days later. I enter my apartment after a long day of training with the last two members of my team. I make it to my bedroom only to notice a pair of slitted red eyes watching me from the shadows. I grip one of my kunai knives as the figure makes its way into the light to reveal a golden fox. I was wondering when you would show up since we got the note. I say while looking down at the relatively normal-looking golden fox that is looking back with a wide grin. One of its ears twitch before there is a soft knock, as if the person people don't want others to hear. I make my way to the door knowing that only 3 people would knock after the long day I have had. Come on in, I think you will like what I have to show you. I say with a smile as I let Asuma, Guy and Kakashi inside before I close the door behind them and lock it as tight as I can. I turn around to find instead of the golden fox, Naruto in his real form is sitting rather relaxed in a chair. I have to admit I am surprised by some of you. Naruto says in a silky purr-like tone as he watches us with a curious expression in his red eyes that look so much like the Kyuubi's own red eyes. Naruto, I know it won't mend the past, but I am sorry, I should have been a better teacher, please forgive me. Kakashi asks his ex-student. Naruto seems to think it over, while his vague gaze seems to look into Kakashi's very soul. Naruto smiles his old childhood fox-like smile at us. Don't worry Kakashi-sensei, I believe you. He says as he stands with a full body stretch. Anyway, the reason why I am here is because of what was said in the letter that Inu sent you. He explains with a serious expression as he turns full body towards us. I take out the letter he means. What is it that you need from us besides being your eyes and ears? I ask, curious to find out what it is that he has planned. Naruto turns a feral grin with a matching gleam in his eyes. To cause chaos and to gather all of those who are on my side in the shadows, as that can be more dangerous than what is known right in front of your very eyes. He says with that gleam and grin still in place, and I have to say it's a very smart plan for what he has planned for the village. Alright, how is it that Akamaru was able to poof in and out of here much like a summon? Guy asks, curious to know. Naruto smiles, a much softer one like the ones from his childhood. That was all thanks to him and Inu sharing something of mine. Naruto tells us in a rather vague way, and we just have to accept that he doesn't quite trust us yet with the whole truth. How will we be able to contact you? Surely there will be a way for us to let you know of what we found. Asuma asks with a raised eyebrow, and Naruto just smirks back widely in return. I will send a messenger crow at random times to keep up to date and so that it's unpredictable for the village. Again, that would be the perfect way to get done what needs to be done without anyone being about to accurately plan for it. Oh, before I forget, keep an eye on Sasuke, as there isn't something quite right, Naruto brings up before he tails off in thought as he shifts into a golden fox once again before leaving out of the apartment through the slightly open bedroom window. That was a rather interesting talk. Kakashi says while looking out the window after Naruto. Naruto's POV. As I run along the edge of this rotten village, I can't help but think that part 1 is going along rather nicely. I pause in my tracks as my nose picks up something heading my way. I make sure that my charka is hidden from everyone while I wait in the shadows with narrowed eyes. How is the plan coming along? An elderly male voice asks with a sinister tone. I hold back a growl as Danzo and a couple of his top root members make their way down the street. It seems to be going rather well, Danzo-sama, she doesn't seem to be released from our control anytime soon. One of the root members say in an emotionless voice, pleasing the old coot. That's good, now if we can only get that blonde monster under my control, then no one would stop us. Danzo smiles darkly at his companions who don't seem to be affected by how the elder is acting, and my eyes even more. This could prove to be rather fun for me and my girls. Let the game of cat and mouse begin. I mutter once they were gone. I sniff the air to make sure that no one else is coming before I continue on my way out of the pathetic place. The end. So how was this part? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this part with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.